Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the first proper episode of Cracked Rugby. Huh? How are you getting on? Welcome on board. Last week, if you were just looking at, oh, right, I didn't spot there was one there last week. Did a bit of a pre-season one, just to say hello to everybody, but this is the proper one. Rugby has actually started back up again. Well, albeit the Irish provinces are to kick off. But they're to kick off next weekend, the weekend coming, but I'm going to leave that to the special guest and we'll have a bit of a chat over that because nothing really, there's no real news on the horizon. There's injuries and whatnot throughout, which there always is. So we'll just leave it towards the end where we'll talk to our very special guest, Mr. Andy Dunne, who knows a bit more about this kind of stuff than I do, at least firsthand, But there is bags and bags of rugby going on right now. Literally, as I'm recording, the women are, I'm assuming, warming up. They're playing Italy. I beg your pardon. They're playing Scotland at 5:00 this evening. So I'm recording this on Monday, the 20th, the day before my birthday. I just realized that. That's when you know you're old, is when you're looking at things going, all right, is that, oh, great. Another one. I don't know. I'm not one that gets overly excited by birthdays. It's probably the most unexclusive thing there. I want something trendy like that time I came back from the war, celebrate that. I didn't go to a war. I didn't. So I'm recording today, but I will be putting it out on the day of my birthday because that's just a normal thing to do. So Ireland women's will have played. They made life difficult on themselves. Anybody wondering, just fair weather fans, they're kind of going, well, we're Ireland. Yes. And you should watch more of it because my God, is it fast. It's so enjoyable to watch. I wish they'd put a bit more. And that's why I'm doing it up the front of the show, because it's our only national team, albeit sevens are playing too, or played over the weekend. Well, literally playing today. The women's 15s team are playing today. They're playing Scotland. They made life difficult on themselves. They made a great job of Italy, but letting Spain in, I genuinely think they just didn't look like they had a game plan. But it had all the signs to me, unfortunately, of unprofessionalism, which I know, no shit, Tom. They're not professional. No, I know, because it's very unlike them. They've been seriously professional how they go about their business, and I think they took their eye off the ball. They went to, they had them. Now 2 tries disallowed was tough, all right, but that's the way of the game. They had their foot on the throat, man. They had their foot on the throat of the Spanish women, and just penalty after penalty, let them back in, and they nabbed a try at the end. They lost to Spain. Like, that shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be happening for women of this standard. And like, it was weird. They took like Beibhinn Parsons off. Like literally, she is like if Brian O'Driscoll and Brian Abana had a child that grew up with Jason Robinson. That's the woman you'd end up with. She is arguably, across the codes, the best player we have. Unbelievable. Just watch her try. Like, there was somebody put it up there this morning, like, it's Beibhinn Parsons' world. We just all get to live in it. Ridiculous how she just, like, Fijian style stuff, the way she's carrying on. And you take her off. I think the management, I'm not blaming the players on this one. I'm blaming the management. Feeling is that they took their eye off the ball. They figured they just had to show up, and that happens. That happens to good teams where they just go, era. Like, throwing on players who really are brand new to the game too. Because a couple they brought in, one girl, she was, she just came over from sevens. Like, in you go, woman. Have a great time. Whereas they should have been, she should have had them bet out the fucking park. They were not, no disrespect to Spain, but they ended Ireland standards, and Ireland giving away all those penalties. It was just sloppy. It was weird. It was just weird to see. And then they come back against Italy, who have had a very good team, and they made a bit of hard work of it, but they still managed to clip them out the door. I think it was like, was it 17-5 or 15-5 or something like that? They beat him anyway, and they beat him comprehensively. Probably the board didn't show it. They're the European. It's because it's a European Cup. They're the qualifiers. Should have been a shoe-in through the whole thing, and that's probably what was in their head was, we're a shoe-in we're a shoe-in. That was probably what was in their head overall, and unfortunately, it comes down now. If they beat Scotland, I think if Scotland can then take Spain, Ireland will top the group. And you got to top the group to qualify. by all accounts. Well, at least that's what Ireland need anyway to qualify. And Ireland should be there, especially with some of the players they have. My God, like standard of just the standard. Just Google Beibhinn Parsons, and it's the Irish version of Beibhinn. Beibhinn, I suppose, Beibhinn. It's Parsons. If I'm not here to give a history lesson, but it. It was a pity. It was a pity that they made life tough on us. Another thing, they went down to a team that it should be going, should be coming up tough against, like UK or something like that. But it is what it is, and all they can do now is hope that they can nip Scotland. Then Scotland can pull up their socks and turn around and beat Spain. So, the sevens. Oh my word! Like, there's so much fun rugby to watch, especially for people that are kind of new to rugby or just kind of, I don't know, am I into it that much? Like, but sevens and the women's game is so quick. It's worth. I actually must watch more of the women's sevens. That must be like fucking lightning. But the men finished fourth in this. I mean, what a buzz! Like, I mean, they're not getting paid an awful lot, but what a buzz going around the world. It's basically a world tour. You do. And they were in Vancouver at the weekend, and they finished fourth. As a result, I think they went down to Kenya and Great Britain. I mean, it's Great Britain, not just England. It's Great Britain, So you're playing the entire union there. But Kenya are always rockets, so they went down to both of them. I think it was, did they go down 35 something 9? But we'll give it a watch. There's a couple of lads playing. Like, there's a Shane Jennings playing, and mother of divine Jesus, there's another lad, Connor Phillips. Just so you're watching going, are they the same species as us? Like, the way they can turn, the fitness levels must be through the roof. Like, and just the hunger to just turn corners that you'd never get in the 15s. That's why it's so much fun to watch, because you're able to turn corners and go for gaps that you'd get milled in 15s. That's why it doesn't always translate over. Like, a lot of lads, they come from junior rugby, like clubs, like, I suppose, UCD or Shannon or these teams that end up, they play for this. Now, I know your man Connor Phillips, he's from Limerick. I think he's on the Munster Green Corps or Academy. He's class. I think he was their top try scorer. I think he's 4 or 5 tries, I think, in 6 games. But they beat the living shit. I think they beat the USA. I know they beat Hong Kong, which is, Hong Kong are serious. Like, they're serious team. I mean, it was, for years it was called the Hong Kong Sevens. That was where an awful lot of it was played out of, and now it's a world tour. So the lads basically go around, and you rack up points as a result of it. It's a table from what I can tell, but you rack up points as a result. It basically plays a league throughout the year, but going from country to country. Like, it's not just around wet out Friday nights in Galway or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with a wet out Friday night in Galway, but at the same time, if you're playing in Vancouver one weekend, the next weekend you're playing in Dubai, following weekend you're playing in fucking Hong Kong. Pretty cool. Like, pretty cool over a weekend. And there's always going to be a festival of hype, because it's not taken as seriously, even though, I mean, these fellas are taking it very seriously, because they made the Olympics. It's like, you know what? Throw your eye over it. It's well worth following. It's well worth following. There isn't enough hours in the day to be following all the rugby that's on the go, but at the same time, there's some very, very exciting stuff at the minute. Like just like that, the sevens, you're seeing people who you'll never see in the 15s game, because they're sprinters. There was a guy, what was his name? Oh, it's not Carlisle. He was the fastest rugby player in the world, and he gave it a go. I don't know, did he come to the Premiership, or did he go to, and he wasn't having it. It's too cool. It just wasn't for him at all. Isles is his name. He was the fastest. I think he was the fastest rugby player in the world. He was a sprinter. Like, he was doing Olympic level numbers, like, in or around 10 on the 100 meters, like, ridiculous. But again, there's fellas like him all over the place now, and they're just pulling off it's these side steps and just cutting through. I love it. Very good. Now, every week we're going to have, now I've been kind of looking, I don't know, will I form a new segment, because it's kind of thereabouts, but there's not enough of it. There's not enough of it in, especially the Irish setup. There's just not enough. There's no mullets. I talked about it last week. There was absolutely nothing. Nothing. Reece Marshall was your last one with a decent mullet. I think Ben Healy had a bit of a thing going on there for a while. Reece Marshall, then he's gone. Not sure where he's gone to actually, but he's left Munster. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Premiership, rake 'em mental looking ones. So I more or less watched the Premiership, and a couple of I watched the Leicester, match, the Leicester. Oh Jesus Christ! Why is my brain after closing in on me? It was Leicester and Exeter match. I watched that one, but I watched the highlights of all the rest. But still all the same. Some mullets on display, lads. I have to say, I was very, very happy by the whole thing. And people really getting inventive. But sure, we may as well jump into the Premiership before I go into the international stuff from the weekend and bring on our special guest. Yeah, so I like that. I watched the Exeter Leicester game purely because I have an old soft spot for Leicester. I don't mind saying it. I have a soft spot for Leicester because they're old dogs like Munster, and the battles that went on back in the day. It's a throwback thing, like, you know what I mean? It's the battles that went on during the early and mid 2000s with Leicester, and dogs. They always had dogs of men, playing for them. Now it's smartened up a bit since, and they've gotten a bit sharper out the backs. A lot of fellas with nice haircuts out the backs, but there was they got their hands on your man after losing to Leggy. They got their hands on your man Nandolo. Oh my fuck, your man. If ever there was your man, he's yours. Like, I'm not going next, or if I'm going in to tackle that fella, 2, you better be coming with me. 3, you better be coming with me. Like, he'd be a big forward, this fella. But you see him just running with the what? Like, it's almost disrespectful. It's almost, I don't know, like playing with children or something. He runs with the ball in one hand and glued to his hand, like not bobbling around or under his arm, literally stuck to the end of his palm. This giant paw just holding on to the ball, which of course frees up so much space then, because of course you got this big old tree trunk of an arm for handing lads off, and you can just throw full on passes, Super Bowl passes out either way. Ridiculous, just milling lads. Oh my God, no thanks. Now one of the lads, the mullets watched during this match was Harry Wells. He's second row for Exeter, is he? Yeah, he's second row. Oh man, top quality. And the thing was, he was hiding it away underneath the scrum cap, and he got a yellow card. And it was only when he pulled off the scrum cap, because he'd long hair hanging out the back, and I'm kind of going, maybe is that a mullet? Is it a cheeky little mullet there? Well, lo and behold, he took off the scrum cap, and this absolute barnet of beauty just started flowing in the wind. Get that guy back on. Just let him back on. And it was a shitty one. He was like, there was a lot of yellow cards, and they tend to be, it's just, in fairness, standard in the Premiership is very good. If good, but it just seems to be very fast. Not a lot of pragmatism, trying to feel each other out or anything like that. That kind of comes in the latter stages of Europe and stuff. That's a real, or Munster, Leinster kind of get into their strides. They're like, I'll outthink you. These lads they're slinging it about a bit, and it's good to see it. It's, especially this game was the opening game of the Premiership, and it was good. Like, I mean, properly handing around. There was I enjoyed that. It came away. It was result, and it was 34-20, I think. 34-20. Exeter, I don't know. In all fairness to Leicester, they look good. And new fella, Genji, whoever, there's a likability to him. He's a bit street now. Now, right, fam. He's a bit that now. But what I like about that, for the want of a better phrase, he's very un-English, as what would be typically in our heads. But in fairness, a lot of them fellas have gone this long time, like, Austin Healy style. There's just getting his head down and going about his business. A bit lippy, all right, but I like him, and he's their new captain, which was a big indictment, in all fairness, just to say, no, you know what, we like him. He's got a rough edge. We're not going to go with the guy who says all the right things. He doesn't. He curses and swears on television the whole time. Like, he doesn't give a bollock. So I got to say, I like him, and I do have a soft spot for Leicester. So it'd be interesting. I'd like to see one of our Irish teams come up against him. primarily Munster, of course, from the old days, just to see. Now, almost none of those people are still around from back in the day, but you've Graham Roundtree's coaching. If, by the way, also you're a fair weather fan, you're going, who's Graham Roundtree? He's the forwards coach for Munster. Notably, though, there's no possibly, the actual worst years in rugby, like brutal, like a dog genuinely chewed him for a week and left him, around the back of a wall, went back chewing him, swallowed him by accident, crapped him out, and then somebody stuck him on the side of this man's head. Oh, they're beyond the beyond. They don't look like ears at all. They look, if anybody remember Pat Short back in the day when he played, or John Kenny when he played the one of the Unbelievables when they did the show in UCH in Limerick. Was it one hell of a do where he plays the hurling coach and he's just got two big rashers for ears. They look better if they got stuck onto Graham Roundtree's. Now, I'm hoping to have him on the podcast at some stage, so I may have to edit this out prior to hell of a good bloke, but he likes the whole, that's why he had no problem going to Munster, because he's like, nah, the two warrior teams just went together, went head to head. So soft out spot for them. Notably, though, the Harry Wells mullet top of the pops. Really good one, like definitively. No messing about. Up next, we had Sale and Bath, and a couple of moves there. Tuilagi obviously went from Leicester over to play with Sale, and he was quiet. He looked skinny. He looked skinny, like he put down. And I like to watch Sale. Now, notably because they call themselves the Sharks, even though there's no Sharks. There's no Sharks. I mean, Leicester call themselves the Tigers. What are we doing? There's no Tigers either in England, but sure, look at it. It's all part of branding, guys. It's all part of branding. I mean, I suppose Leinster do it too, but they don't really call themselves the Lions. They're more of the Harps than anything else. But it was a tight one, 2019 for a finish. But they had, it was a good game, and it was a bit of an arm wrestle more than anything else, kind of feeling each other out and stuff. It wasn't the slobber knocker, as they call it in wrestling, that the Leicester Exeter match was. But notably, I mean, technically kind of a mullet happening, but the worst do I've ever seen on a rugby pitch. The worst hairdo. It was Tom Dunn is his name. He's the hooker. Oh, Jesus Christ for Bath. If you go back and watch the highlights, you'll briefly see. It's what it was the worst beyond belief. Like literally, it looked like a piss take. Like his mates at bases just held him down and said, look, we're just gonna shave half your head. Now, I mean, not up the middle, which would be kind of gas. I mean, across from ear to ear. So draw a line from the front of your ear, across the top of your head, and down to the other side. And they shaved off everything front of that line and left. Like, I remember Mr. Burns shouting at that baseball player, shave off those side locks. I want to see those side locks gone tomorrow. Before he knew it, like he'd shaved all the way around. That's literally what happened with this guy. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It had to be a dare. It was the most scandalous haircut I've ever seen in my life. But again, I got to take my hat off and appreciate it. It was pretty bold. A pretty bold move. Load of shit, like disgusting looking thing. But at the same time, fair play. That finished 2019 to Sale. And we had Northampton and Gloucester then 34-20. That one finished. Not a lot. I mean, I think Paul Grayson, he pulled off a dirty old move. And this is something that doesn't get picked up on an awful lot. Going over the line for a try, especially out in the wing, when you've the outside centre or maybe other backs coming across to try and cover. But when the try is scored, done and everything, you got to pull out of that situation. But he didn't. As Paul Grayson, now I don't know. He must be the son of Paul Grayson, the kicker from the mid 2000s. It kind of looks a bit like him, or just a coincidental name. Who I think Paul Grayson actually play for Northampton as well. But Gloucester winger went over in the corner, clear try, tackle made by, the opposite swing. And he just comes across and just with his shoulder, just slides and just smashes him. And just everybody was talking on like, oh yeah, it's a try, all right. And it was Johnny May. And May is on bits on the ground. Like, he's like, fuck, man. Because he kind of slid in on his left shoulder, showing his back to the rest of the pitch. And your man Grayson just comes in with a shoulder, sliding, and just boom, hits him. You can hear it. You're like, oh, fucking hell tonight. Oh, Jesus, Mary. Like, there's no need in it. Like, and that happens some amount. Same. I know the amount of times I don't pick up on it. I remember it happened Jordan Murphy years ago playing against England. He slid in for a try. And I don't know, was it Ben? Oh, what was his name? He's a big unit. He just slid with both legs. Just slid with both legs and hit him into the tie and spun him. But again, nothing of it because, you should be fucking happy. There's a try scored. No, motherfucker. But he gave the try and yellow card. And a penalty from the halfway mark to the opposite team. So, I mean, it's something that needs to be picked at. And I said this if anybody listened to Buckshot, which I'm going to throw them all over here. I know it's kind of a cheese, whatever, and we'll probably have a lot of people coming over from, but I'm going to, just because it's a rugby podcast, I'm going to take from the archives any of the rugby ones and chuck them up here. Just if you're brand new, you'll go, what? Buckshot is my original podcast that hit 200 episodes the other day. And I'd have down through the years, I've had a couple of rugby players on, but I remember saying to John Fogarty, the scrum coach for Ireland, I was like, what's the deal with fucking people just throwing it in crooked? He's like, listen. There's a bunch of things like that just wreck our heads, but just refs just go, yeah, whatever. So again, I was delighted to see that picked up because I spotted it straight away because pure fucking dirt, no need in it whatsoever. But there you have it. But anyway, Northampton did go on to win 34-20. The Bears then against Saracens. I mean, I don't know what a Saracen is. What's a Saracen? It's a tank as far as I know. I'm assuming it's a warrior or some sort, is it? I don't know. I let them have it. It's a strange word. Bristol have been Bristol, and then a couple of years ago they went, let's be the Bears. It's like, there's definitely no Bears in Bristol. There's definitely none. There's none. But they are still a class outfit. In all fairness, they had no sponsors on their tops this week, which is weird for the Premiership. There's normally sponsors up on your taint, like that, and some of the lads, the Welsh regions, like it's like O'Brien's, sausage makers, and let's just stick that in the left cheek over, and it's big pins, and they just have no shame where to stick it. But I don't know who's funded them, Bristol, because they locked in Pat Lam for 5 years. Locked him in for 5 years. So somebody's throwing serious moolah around down there. So good on you, Bristol. It's a funny accent. It's kind of the pirate accent. If anybody's wondering which one it is, it's the pirate. Yeah, not the Johnny Depp pirate. The piratey one we think of. It's going to look small bit. It's not classy, but I like it. It's a bit like that. I could be completely wrong. If we have any Bristolians listening in, please correct me. I know I absolutely made a bollocks to your accent there, but it's for the general public who don't know. But they're definitely, I swear to God, I go out on a limb and say there's no Bears in Bristol. But all the same, that their trousers pulled down and bums spanked by Saracens. Bunch of new lads with Saracens, couple of old lads there as well. The Lions players and stuff have not made it back yet. They're still on holidays. So, they've been a poll on that, but in all fairness, they still got the job done. They held them scoreless, like 26-9. So I'd be kind of getting a little bit worried if I was Pat Lam. I'd be going, oh, Jesus. I mean, we've all this money. We don't even need a sponsor, and they just give me a 5-year contract. Look, it's a long road and all the rest of it, but oh, Jesus Christ. Whatever about the worst here, the most, I suppose, boldest here was Nathan Hughes. He's a unit at number 8 for Bristol. And I don't know what's going on, but he have plaits on top of his head, 2 or 3 big plaits on top of his head, and then a mullet growing down the back, sprayed blue or dyed blue. That's why. Who cares? I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. Scandalous. I don't think I get away with it myself. I mean, the mullet here is, it is what it is. It's just a little mini mullet at the minute, but blue, yeah, all day long. against, oh, Jesus Christ. But I mean, Bristol, they have some class players, like they, they had Charles Piatow. Oh, Jesus Christ. Any team. Like, they shit the bit. Like, the try was, they didn't get a try from it. But if you go for a look at Charles Piatow from the weekend, just again, Beibhinn Parsons stuff, like, just, no, you will not catch me, and neither will you, and neither will you. And you know what? You're not getting a hand on me either. And he gave the ball, passed the ball on the two, and just your man just capitulated towards the end. He was like, I guess he just didn't know what to do. He got there and there wasn't support, but it's kind of annoying when you see somebody so incredible put on such a display and then it doesn't finish up a try. But whew, very, very. I had a bit of a beam up on it. I've had this in the past before, and I think it's been brought up on other podcasts. I think, or maybe I dreamt it inside my head that other people were talking to me about it, because sometimes that happens. I love Wayne Barnes. He's a bloody good referee, comes across as a great fella. But dude, stop calling players by their name. I can't handle it. I cannot handle him calling players by the name. Dan, no, Dan, you're not, no, let him go, Dan. You're going, would you stop? It's really unprofessional, I think. Oh, am I to talk about professionalism? I know, but at the same time, it's like, man, unless you know every single person, benches and all, throughout the entire Premiership, in fact, throughout all the international games, and he does it with Ireland. He'd be like, Peter, no, Peter. When O'Mahony's shouting his fucking head off or whatever. But I get it. Talk. Maybe it's his thing. I don't like it. I like the separation. I don't want him, because it opens the door to a lunatic then just kind of going, yeah, fuck off, Wayne. But don't, like, which is wrong. But Wayne, you've opened the door. We're mates now. You're calling me by my name like it's my mother calling me in for dinner, like off the side of a ruck. No. Go back to it. Go back to normal. Call him by the number. Call him by the position. Do what everybody else does, please. It's not for me. And then there was Newcastle against Quins. I didn't see what's his name. Oh Christ! He's after. You think I prepare? I've written notes. But it's missing. Fella shaved head just left Quins, went to Mike Brown. My brain just had to catch up. I didn't see much of him throughout now, in all fairness. I was expecting to see, kind of a big thing. That finished 2026 to Quins. And Lina has a bit of a mullet going on. His dad, of course, the famous Australian. I wonder, will he qualify? He's been living in England. I wonder, will he wear his legions like? But he has a little mullet going on. He's tied it up the sides with the, a mullet ready to happen. Like, not actually happen, but ready. He's out in the wing. I mean, they're the champions, so disappointingly, I mean, Joe Marler has, he's been leading the way on mullets for this long time, but he must have had a busy couple of weeks. He's just kind of letting it just flop around. Now, there's not a lot of it left, so he's just kind of letting it flop around there. I would like to see something as the season picks up. One last hurrah from Marler when it comes to, he'll probably just, because everybody wants it now, he'll just end up shaving his head, guaranteed. But for Newcastle, in all fairness, there was Adam Radwan is his name. Radwan. Class. Again, another fella I'd say has his eyes on the owl. Has to have his eyes on the international. He is English, but class act. Just one of those fellas that kind of goes under the radar a small bit, but deadly looking. And I think that's pretty much, that's as much as the Premiership as I got through anyway. International rugby at the weekend. Oh my God. Again, if you're kind of, because a lot of these games, like, there's yellow cards going to be given all over the place. Like, Munster play the Seashell Sharks at the weekend. It's going to be shite. There's going to be a bit of shiteness. There's going to be yellow cards. There's going to be, because it's right at the beginning of the season. It should be fairly good, but nothing like what you'd expect at full tilt. But just to balance the books, to watch the displays at the weekend, like the depth that whatchamacallit have. Like New Zealand played Argentina again. Now, it wasn't the hiding that it was the last day. New Zealand or Argentina scored a screamer of a try. Beauty, like class, worldy try with Christ, what was his name? Boffelli. He had a good game himself, but to say like the depth, like Barrett didn't start at 10. Richie Mo'unga is off because I think the Miz had a child. And they just went, well, Damien McKenzie, in you go, who normally plays fullback, can play winger as well. Handy little fella. And in he goes, has an absolute blinder at out half. That's 3 out halves that would start for any country in the world. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I know they've all got the same boots. That rarely, I mean, I'm assuming it's Adidas, but to lock them all into the same boots, they're all kind of rank, orange and yellow boots. I wouldn't have gone for them myself, but at the same time, I suppose if they're paying you enough, oh yeah, mullet watch. I was looking, I knew there was a mullet, the burgeoning mullet, bit of a Ben Healy, because of course he's got the kind of tight fro going on, but Topu Vahi, very nice. Albeit, I mean, he's an amazing player and he scored an unbelievable try. Like, it was a couple more like Will Jordan. Oh my God. Only ever seen him once. All of a sudden could walk onto any team in the world. The hands oh my God. But yeah, I mean, it was a crossfield kick for Boffelli's try. Oh my God. And then he scores his own conversion as well. Like, it was just class. It was a class build-up, class worked across the field and stuff. And then you got Scott Barrett. So you've the 3 Barretts now are all on the pitch with the last 20 minutes to go. Scott plays in the second row, big. It's funny to see the 3 of them are the head off each other. The 2 boys, Geordie and Bowden out in the back, they kind of look similar build, and then it's like somebody just put Miracle Grow into, like the Hulk version. Like the Hulk is, he's whatever, he's the Doctor, but it's his face, but just kind of swelled out and his body is swelled out every which way. Scott Barrett's the same as his 2 brothers. He's the head of him. Just somebody as honey, I grew the kids, him. He just everywhere. But he's a big lump of a second row. And you're thinking, Asher, look at it. Does he have? Oh, of course he does. Yeah. Bust through, hand off, and then offload for Vahi's try. The aforementioned mullet. The boys, New Zealand boys, not frightened of a mullet. Not frightened of a mullet. I think that 37-13 finish, the All Blacks again, like just being, for fuck's sake, like, class acts, a lot of them, but the highlights are fun to, like, in fairness to Argentina, they don't roll over. There was nobody, getting milled this match. But again, even in a courageous fight, you're still going down 37-13. It's it's well done, Argentina. It's like, it's nearly like patting them on the head a small. Argentina are class, like, but it's just New Zealand or New Zealand. We play in November, and we'll be talking it up and everything beforehand. But by Jesus Christ, the rate they're going, like, Ireland did have a camp the other day. 50 players went up to a camp. We'll talk to Andy about that briefly to see what in the Christ they'd be talking about in a camp that size. Finally, South Africa back with the game of the weekend again. Everybody's watching this one. Australia, can South Africa, can they get revenge? No, they fucking can't. No, they can't. Australia are on a good one. Whoever's put a rocket up their hole, and I'm guessing it's the site. I mean, look, their training regime, but they've gotten themselves back on track. Now, there's a few soft ones. Just falling off tackles and stuff like that, which, I don't know, maybe South Africa are feeling the burn a small bit after the Lions tour as well. They had the Lions tour, like, to deal with. So, I mean, nobody's kind of pointing that out. They're going, they had the Lions to play 4 times. Let's be honest, 4 times. I know they said there was only 3 tests and there was the A side, but the A side had fucking littered with starters. Like, so maybe a bit of that. Also, I mean, Quade Cooper coming back looks the part too. Everybody loves an Alf redemption story, which is class. He went through a rough patch. He was stealing shit and stuff like that. He kind of went off the wrong one, but by all accounts, went and lived with Sonny Bill Williams, the Kiwi. Well, he's a Kiwi himself, Quade Cooper. went and lived with him. I don't know, did he switch? Did he become a Muslim? I don't know, because Sonny Bill is a Muslim. He's one of the few fellas back in the day. I think he's okay with it now, but back in the day, he didn't want AIG. He didn't want any branding of banking or insurance or anything like that. Any financial institution of any sort went against his religion. And because of Sonny Billy Williams, they went, Grant, we'll leave it off your jersey. So, but also by the same token, that's not him being a bollocks. He gave away, I'm sure people have seen it, where the kid, after they won the World Cup that time, what is it, 5 years ago now, he jumped the fence and, he jumped the barrier, ran over to him, and like security tackled this little kid as the lads were doing their lap of honor. And Sonny Bill just picked a few of them up and threw him away, and just picked the kid up, gave him an old hug, brought him back to his parents. This is Sonny Bill Williams. The kid is just, his eyes are out in stalks, and he takes off his World Cup medal. I mean, PR. Hello. How good of a PR is that? Like, I mean, I'm sure it was a stunt medal. Like, it's not the real thing, I mean, come on, let's be honest. But he's a cool cat. And apparently Quade Cooper lived with him for a couple of months and got him back on the straight and narrow, how to conduct yourself as a professional rugby player. It's worked, whatever's worked, because they 30-17, they beat South Africa again. Yeah, man, Kitchoff, I can't take him seriously. He's a front row. He's a prop for South Africa. I can't take him seriously, like, even though he's a complete monster. He's part of the bomb squad, as they call it. Like, but it's the big foxy head in him, lads. He's the most Irish looking lad. How he isn't playing for Galwegians, I don't know. Or Sunday as well, or something. Like, the big foxy head in him. Like, where did he come out of? That's not, I know they say, like, every so often in Mexico, you'll see the likes of Canelo, you know what I mean? Canelo looks like, Steve Collins. Steve Collins Jr., actually. He's the head of him. But there was a lot of Irish slaves sent down and made their way. A lot of Irish, not even slaves, but a lot of Irish immigrants came over from Wexford in the 1800s and stuff like that. And they do reckon that a bit of that, now touch of that went down the way, like, which is understandable. But I didn't hear nothing in South Africa. I know they say the Vikings brought foxy hair here, and the Dutch brought Dutch people to South Africa. No, it's so bright red, big, freckly white head in him with a tan. Like, imagine living in South Africa and being orange red, like, not even just strawberry blonde, but orange, like rushed. Fair play to him. Factor 90 for that man living in South. But they still went down. Faf, even one of my favorite players, Faf, with the finest hair in all. Like, Percy Montgomery had the finest hair in rugby. Another South African, and he was Prince Charming, essentially. Prince Charming, and then Faf de Klerk comes along, and it's just Prince Charming point 2.0. Oh my lord! Oh my lord! Does that hair? I swear to God, somebody put up a picture pre the Lions tour, and it was like Faf's after cutting his hair. I was genuinely, I was like, no, no, it was a lie. Somebody had photoshopped it. It was a lie, thank God. He still had beautiful, beautiful locks. Doesn't matter. They went down, but it was, you knew this. There's sometimes moments in a game where you're like, okay, it's on, like a fucking Donkey Kong. And it was clearly on. There was a ruck that went from a line out or scrum, I can't remember, on the halfway. Ball went across the field for South Africa. I think it was a line out. And it looked like they were making ground. And like, there was a ruck happened on the very far side of the field, like 5 seconds later, as the ball was passed across. And the forwards that got across there, and it was their ruck, South Africa's ruck. And Australia, who wouldn't be known for dog, you know what I mean, an absolute dog on them, just melting them out of their own ruck, like, and won the ball, driving over it. You're like, that's a moment in a match where you're going, you're not fucking winning that in today, South Africa. I'm sorry, lads, but you're not. And they would know it too. They go, how can we beat these bastards? They're absolutely fired up beyond belief. So it was a quality match and class to see, because it's kind of sad to think that Australia were going down, because the NRL were getting way ahead of them. Cricket, apparently, like Aussie rules, way ahead of them. And they were literally fourth or fifth most popular sport in Australia. And now they're back. So hopefully it'll start inspiring a few. It's just because it's Australia. You know what I mean? They've always been sound. The Honey Badger used to play with them. Go actually follow the Honey Badger if you haven't. Nick Cummins, former Australian rugby player. Go follow him. He got. Oh, yeah, I was going to give him an honorable mention at the top of the show, but it just popped into my head. He freed up a sheep that was caught in a barbed wire. Just, it was almost staged. It was done so well, but I don't think it was. Like, he just does cool shit all the time. He's beyond hilarious. Like, you'll have seen him. You know who I'm talking about. You'll probably have watched a couple of his compilations on where he's just talking to camera after matches. Like, he's just coming out, can't have like the most Aussie bloke to Aussie bloke, but does it all with his tongue in his cheek, roaring, laughing. Like, so he, but again, like, there was no superhero moment. He just, the title of it was, this would have went very differently in New Zealand. Clearly, this sheep was caught by the head in a fence, claiming, we all know what you're talking about. Like, Kiwis are fond of sheep. And I'm just saying, it was very, very cool on his behalf. So follow him. We will have Clatter of the week, and I think a lot of you will know exactly which one I'm on about after today's special guest. So let's chat to Andy Dunne, everybody. And I'm delighted to be joined by former Leinster and Harlequins and now physio to the stars, Andrew Dunne. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. I'm not quite physio to the stars now, but
you fixed my tennis elbow, so I technically, this moustache is pretty star. So I mean, it's a start. It's small, but it's a start.
Did I? I actually have no recollection of that either. So did you come in for physio? Or?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, I had a gammy arm, and you said you gave me one of your colleagues who poked it with needles. Sorted.
Fobbed you off.
Yeah. Oh, you totally fobbed me off. I mean, you're too big showtime for me. Like,
You're not a big enough start.
Life's been good. We were just talking before you got married and everything. I mean, great move. Not, getting married during a pandemic. Any of my mates that have got married, it's like great move, because then there's no rows over numbers, anything like that. It's great. It's great.
No, it worked out nicely. We got married back in July. We were meant to get married the previous September. That would have been a traditional Irish style wedding with 4,500 guests. And so we got a big win. We were down around the 50 mark, and those who couldn't come were also very understanding. So yeah, it is a good move, and we got really lucky because we got a beautiful sunny day, and we were in Ashley Park House in Nina, which is a magnificent place that neither of us were not familiar with, actually, even though it's 7-8 minutes from Marion's family home. So yeah, we had a great time.
I was there once for a wedding. Can't remember much of it. They made a local cider that they were selling. Didn't tell me it was 13%. That's where everybody's. So I sat in the corner for most of the evening, sucking my thumb, more or less. But we're I mean, the reason for bringing you on board, of course, you agreed because I called you an expert in a text message. I said you're an expert. You're going, well, you played to my ego, of course. Absolutely. It's starting back properly this time. Last season, it just seemed to be the never-ending story of rugby, didn't it? It was like, when do we? There was no start to the party. It was just continuous, and then it kind of wore thin a small bit towards the end. But we've had a bit of a break, and we're heading back towards the rugby now. You're always a bit of a pragmatist, and you can be a hint cynical from time to time, which I like. I like that. Are you excited this time around?
I am, actually. I kind of had to check myself a bit on the maybe the pragmatism or the cynicism. I saw a video at some stage in the middle of the pandemic of a Leinster match. TG4 were doing old rehashing, obviously because there was such little content. They were just dredging up.
Rugby bio, Arish.
Yeah, exactly, Arish. That's what it was. And it was a game from 2002 that I was a part of. I was going to say featured in. I did not feature, that's for sure. But the overall package, that game it looked really slow. It looked low on skills. And it looked pretty average to a lot of the fare that we see nowadays in terms of it's faster, it's more explosive. I know I've been critical of rugby in recent years over its lack of creativity, and I would maintain that.
Yeah,
I think I do think there's some serious challenges going on there in terms of how the game needs to kind of draw in more, I suppose, be more global, have more support, as opposed to being a game that can be quite stale to watch. But notwithstanding all those things, it has come a long way from when I was involved in 2002, which kind of that TG4 Rugby Bio Arish was a sobering evening there watching. A few of the lads who used to play texting each other going, geez, we weren't that good, were we?
I can just picture you watching going, oh.
Yeah, we weren't that good, yeah.
Yeah, I call that pending pints rugby, because when I watch that, I know that everyone of it, like yourselves, you're all hitting Kylie's immediately afterwards. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like,
well, Kylie's is closed down.
I know, heartbreak. I mean, I'm not absolutely, shitting tons, but I've had a couple of nice pints in Kylie's as well. No doubt it'll be a beautiful block of apartments at some stage, which is what Donnybrook needs,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But in terms of what I'm looking forward to, though, Harlequins, my old club, gave me great joy and hope last year. The way they played rugby was unbelievable. They were just high risk. If I don't know if you followed any of it, Tom, but the last 6-7
amazing.
Winning the Premier League and the Premiership, most of their last 3 or 4 knockout games are like 38, 36.
Yeah.
42, 39. It was just brilliant stuff. So really demanding stuff they played in terms of fitness and execution of skills and all that, but just great to see a team have a go instead of just running into the opposition and trying to recycle the ball. They took a lot of risk, and so heartening to see a team take all that risk and come out the other side and actually be successful. Because I think the flip side of that is looking at the likes of South Africa, when they lock it down and they're successful, then the problem is everyone tries to go and copy that, and then we're really in for a tough
because you're always hoping that the Japan model takes off. You know what I mean? Where they just move it, move it.
Yeah. So look, that's the kind of stuff I'm hoping for and looking forward to going into the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had a guy in, Quins had a guy in at the weekend, because obviously Marcus Smith isn't back. He's obviously was away with the Lions and stuff, but did a guy in at the weekend doing the exact same thing. That real fancy rugby that puts arses in seats, as you said. It's the stuff, that's.
I don't think the game itself, no game in particular, lent itself well to having no crowds. That pandemic, the empty stadium, the hollowness, but rugby in particular, I found tough to watch with no audience, no noise. I think the crowd feeds off the physicality often and the effort they're making and get involved in that sense. So I did think it diminished it somewhat. Obviously that was the same across all sports with no crowds, but my sense of rugby was really tough to watch without the audience, without the shout, the audience baying for blood or getting stuck in and riled up when a big hit comes. Clatter of the week when that
and it's almost a bit trite too, like when you get lads trying to generate a bit of an atmosphere there, lads, when they're playing it over and you hear Bundy Aki roaring his head off, and you're like, just leave it off. If they're not doing it, then you don't need to be doing it. Like,
if I was, do you remember the 2 grumpy outfielders in the Muppets called Statler and Waldorf? If I was going to have my Statler and Waldorf moments, something I could take away from modern rugby is the wingers running in, slapping everyone's arse when you get a turnover, and the hooping. It literally sickens me. It drives me insane. It's like, it's just become a part of the game. And if you get a turnover or 14 lads running in, slapping each other's arse, hopping around, and then back out again, I'd like to see that taken away from modern rugby, please.
Yeah, there's an over familiarity, and as if a winger would even know what's after happening anyway.
There's no idea.
No, just shut up, be dry, and get on with it. Yeah, I absolutely get it. Because, I mean, there's one of the things that has drawn, the only rugby really that's been played of any interest, because anything between the Lions was fairly drab for the overall, let's be honest, they're playing South Africa, who play park the bus rugby, is to steal a Gaelic football term. But it's the women's rugby for me. It's being at 100 miles an hour. Somebody like, you've Beibhinn Parsons there, who essentially is like Jason Robinson reborn. You just can't touch her. Like, I think, and also the sevens too, the prominence of the sevens coming forward. Who doesn't love watching that?
Yeah,
everybody's playing at 100 miles an hour. It's great crack. Everybody's playing with a smile on their face. It may hopefully bleed over. People may demand it, but because of the new law changes, I wonder. Because can you explain to me the 50-20? It's 50-22. Do you know?
No, I don't.
No.
I'm not fully familiar. I mean, I'll go and look at it. I can't. I would give you a bad attempt to guess, kind of trying to get through the question, but I'd be better off saying I just don't fully know it. Yeah.
Love it. That's honesty from Andy, because it would seem if you can boot it from inside your 22, make it go 50 and land in theirs, it's your throw. You get it then.
Yes, I think that's the crux, roughly. I think it needs to bounce. I don't know. I think it can bounce outside the 22, but the ball has to go into touch inside the 22.
Yes, right.
That's where I'm a little confused, I suppose. I don't think you have to land it in the 22 and bounce it and make it cross the touchline. I think you can bounce it before the 22 and it can keep rolling and go in the 22.
Oh, fair enough. But that should break things up a bit, shouldn't it? I mean, that's not this wall shit.
I could be completely wrong here, by the way. But I think it's a really, really clever concept to get out of this idea that two teams play each other effectively between the 22s on the field and run into each other the guts of 120 rucks each in a game, and just absolute toilet.
It's Red Rover basically, isn't it? It's just Red Rover, just 14 lads.
The likes of watching the likes of Beibhinn Parsons, where, and I don't mean this. You could be accused of all kinds of things here, but the space, it reminds me of the 70s or 80s rugby in the best possible sense, is what I mean. I'm not saying they're 40 years behind. What I'm saying is, if you look at a video of international rugby in the 70s and 80s, the defenses, it was just more broken up. The emphasis was on keep the ball alive, keep attacking, pass out of the tackle, throw it off the ground. It just made for a deconstructed type style of rugby that is so joyful to watch. When, I suppose, over time in the men's game, the game went professional in 95, everyone's in that same little bubble in professional rugby. There's only like 8 countries who are really of any use. They're all used to watching each other. All the leagues are familiar with each other. All the coaches currently are all ex-players since about 1995. There's no one coming out of left field. So it's kind of like groupthink on a large scale. So you do end up everyone kind of negating each other. So I do think rugby struggled in the last couple of years to overcome that. But the likes of Harlequins have shown it can be done. But yeah, that Beibhinn Parsons example, or the sevens, men's and women's game, where there's just a bit more space and the ball is flying around and people are flying around, it's definitely more enjoyable to watch.
I think they need to stop all these giant people playing rugby and just go back to 12 stone centers, 11 stone wingers. Just keep everybody nice and light. No more. No more.
We talk about the rule changes. So adding in the things like the 50-20 and getting the line out back, like there's nowadays, if you see a ball thrown into a line out, if it's 1 millimeter crooked, the ref will blow the whistle. Yeah. But if it's a yard crooked feeding it into the scrum, they let it go. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. There's a total lack of consistency there. But if you had a 0 tolerance rule on putting the ball into the scrum, you will need, so that means it has to go straight. It means you need a smaller little hooker who can get his leg closer to the ground, and you need 2 massive props. So suddenly the shape of 3 of your team has changed by a rule change. So then you're reintroducing diversity. If you did something around the line out, you need a big string bean, 6'7", lanky guy, as opposed to, suddenly you make a few changes. You currently could have 5 guys in the front 5 who are all about 6'3" and 18 stone. Now you're looking at, you need probably 2 20-stone props that are a bit shorter in height, and you need a stringy little hooker, and you need 2 big lanky second rows. And that changes it too. The rule changes can have a knock-on effect on that side of thing. So the days of your 12-stone centre could return, and your little nippy winger. That's what we need to base it on, and we'll write up a dossier based on what we're thinking, and if we base it with our goal being get everybody's weight down and into normal sized people, the pitch will just open up. I mean, if you've Nandolo stuck in the middle of, they're useless. Yes, okay, they're fun to watch smashing people, but Jesus Christ, what are you supposed to do with that unit? Like, the 19 stone running at people with one hand on the ball. Like, You know,
Get everybody back down to normal size. More moustaches, possibly. I'm just
more moustaches, more mullets, more little 12-stone maggots wringing wet. Yeah.
So the two, I suppose, the ones that our eyes would be on typically Leinster and Munster play the Bulls and the Sharks from South Africa this weekend. I mean, they're saying that, I mean, the experiment was absolutely fell on its hole, you know, the last couple of years sending up, but they were sending up the dregs. Let's be honest, the Cheetahs and the Kings, like, you know, they wouldn't get a kick in a stampede.
No.
The Bulls and a couple of more. I mean, there seems to be a bit of excitement going on. I mean, how do you feel about bringing South Africa up into what is now the Pro 17 or 18 now?
Yeah, I have found the Pro 14 very, very hard to get enthusiastic about over the years because, you know, in reality, there's probably only been, you know, Leinster, the Irish, Leinster, Munster, Ulster, Connacht, the 4 Irish teams have all made valuable contributions over the years. There's a complete lack of, really, Glasgow had a good shout one year, I didn't get a good season. And the Welsh teams have been really disappointing, and the Italian teams never really threatened. So you're talking about a tournament that you kind of know who's roughly going to win it.
Yeah.
Most years. So I think it's a big addition to the tournament to get the real South African sides as opposed to the fake South African sides.
Yeah.
But and it would be something that would generate interest, I think, in South Africa too. So yeah, no, I think it's been a very smart move commercially, and I just hope, I hope it generates a bit of excitement, you know, seeing top players from South Africa playing. Some of the best South Africans are obviously taking their trade to France and England, and they're probably getting paid more, but still, the top level South African provincial sides are far more of a handful than I think currently the Welsh regional sides and the Italians and Scottish are. So.
And plus, an old trip to the Cape or whatever, a bit tastier than Clonettley on a Friday night, like, you know, just.
Are you guys going to send me there to do a roving report?
Yeah, absolutely going to. I mean, who better? I mean, pending Pints rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open. Just want to let you know I'm open to that.
Well, it's there. It's recorded. We have it actually official. Apparently, there is going to be less actual games of it, so there'll be no games around the internationals. So,
okay.
It'll free up. The idea being it's going to put more internationals back into playing. It isn't going to be a third string. The kids going out to play on a Friday night, like.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea.
Well, Andy Dunne, this has been as the first proper episode with the first proper expert. I mean, I didn't get an invite to the wedding, but I wouldn't have been, you know, I would have been okay not going either, because, you know, to behave responsibly and all the rest. But this has been absolutely glorious checking back in with you.
You had me at expert, Tom. You got me with that text message last week, and you got me again. My little cheeks went all rosy.
Thanks a million, Andy.
Cheers, Tom.
And thanks a million to Andy Dunne. Andy knows rugby, in all fairness. For all your physio needs, if, you know, you're a big shot or a big star or whatever, he'll sort you out. But only if you're a big star. Thank you very much. See, some expert knowledge. I told you, I promised it was going to be expert knowledge. Now, moving into the final part of the show. It is, of course, Clatter of the Week. And again, absolute standout. There's been a couple of bangers, no doubt, but the standout one of the week was absolutely one of the most illegal tackles I've ever seen in all my born days. If you are watching now on the YouTube channel, you'll see it. But if you're audio, go have a look at either the video of this or look for Rhino Pieters. He's a South African, of course, and his name is actually, I swear to Christ, Rhino, Ryno. I mean, sweet Jesus, about 63 minutes in, he hits poor old Maxine Luchu. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Maxine is like full back or whatever, and he just boots the ball away. This guy's like an 18-stone back rower. And he just mills him. Like it's ridiculous how much he hits him. Just have a quick look at this video. Of course, everybody piles in. Of course, the ref is in like, Carte Rouge didn't even take it out of his pocket, I don't think. Just Carte Rouge. It's the tackle you dream of, but with the guy having the ball in his hands. The ball was long gone. long gone out of his hands. No rhyme nor reason to, like, and it wasn't like, oh, well, he was committed. The ball was gone. And he's still, like, the guy just, something just, like a glaze came over this guy's head and just went, I'm going to have, all right, bro, I'm going to have to fucking melt you like a fucking, the poor, I don't know what the poor old scenario was with Lucho afterwards. Like, he was bollocks, no doubt. The poor old devil, like, he absolutely creased him. Like, I'm good Lord Almighty. He boots the ball away and bang! Like, the guy, he had him teed up, in all fairness, and there was, like, it looks much worse in slow motion, but at the same time, like, there's no need. There was no need. It was all out on his own. It was 20, it was like not even 20 minutes left in the match. It wasn't, just even attempt to block it down or just went, I'm just going to bundle into this guy. And this guy had made his decision 5 seconds out. Just went, I'm going to absolutely rip him off. Sorry. And he's a scrum half. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, he was a scrum half, not a fullback. So, I mean, they tend to be a bit on the lighter side, and he absolutely fucking melted him. Like, this fella hitting you now would be just good night and thanks for the use of the hall, in the immortal words of Eddie O'Sullivan. Oh, sweet sovereign Jesus. So go have a look at that one. It was Clatter of the Week. I will be dotting up how I know Andy is through, he was a guest on Buckshot. I have a bunch of rugby ones, and I will be dotting them, as I said, I'll be dotting them over the next couple of weeks from the archives, just throwing them over there, over onto this one. Fill up your old timeline with some rugby chat as the season is about to kick off. And that's it. That's episode 1. Episode 1 in the can. Thank you all very much. The crack, I'm involved in the Rake More podcasts, my own one, Buckshot, and of course there is the Tom and Jerry show as well. Go have a gander at all of them. There's plenty there. I'll be banging out one of these every single Tuesday throughout the season, hoping to have guests on board so we can have an old natter so they can put me right when it comes to things that I'm going, I have no idea what's going on here. Just like Andy did today. Other than that, I'd like you to hit subscribe. It's your first time and you've just played it through. You're going, fuck it, maybe hit subscribe. It'll turn up on your phone next week. And all the other ones throughout the couple of weeks, if you're brand new to it, you get a bunch of the rugby episodes over from Buckshot, just arrive in your phone. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Acast or whatever, you're allowed to leave a review. Please do 5 stars. And listen, that is no use because 5 stars get it shown to more people. Take a screenshot, put it up in your socials, retweet it, repost it, whatever you can do just to get the word out there because we're brand new and we're trying to shake it up with a small bit of crack when it comes to rugby because let's be honest, it's just an old game. Boys, girls, and everything in between. Have a lovely week. And I'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Good luck.